Hi there, it's Professor Lee Waters here, and thank you so much for joining me for this brief video on how we can grow through adversity. Let's start first with the definition of adversity. Adversity can be any experience, event, or relationship that causes overwhelming hardship and distress. For many of us, when we experience adversity, it leaves us feeling depleted and distressed. Whether that be the everyday type of adversity that you see on the top of the list here, or life's big extreme adversities that you see on the bottom of the list. When we find ourselves confronted with adversity, when we find ourselves depleted and distressed, there are strategies that we can use to give us that emotional first aid that we need. These strategies don't just help us in moments of adversity, they also help us to build up resilience, meaning that the next time life throws us a curveball, we have a better capacity to cope. Resilience is defined as the ability to bounce back from adversity. Let me draw you a little diagram from a psychologist's perspective of what resilience looks like. Let's start first with life as usual. Let's assume that everything is going well in your life, and the line that you see in front of you is your capacity to cope with life the way that it is. Now, adversity strikes. When adversity strikes, your capacity to cope goes down. Your distress levels go up, and you can't function as well as you normally do. For a while there, your capacity to cope will be at that lower level than everyday normal life. But if you have the right strategies, your capacity to cope goes back up and you return or you bounce back to pre-adversity coping levels. This is what we call resilience. For some of us, sadly, that capacity doesn't bounce back and our capacity to cope diminishes to the point where we end up experiencing distress and mental illness. These are the two pathways that most of us will think about when life's adversity hits us. But there is a third pathway, and the research shows that people have the capacity to grow as a result of adversity. And what you see here is that going through adversity not only means that you bounce back to your pre-adversity levels to cope, but actually you get better at coping over time. This is what psychologists like myself call adversarial growth. And adversarial growth is defined as the positive personal changes that occur following on from adversity. People who experience adversarial growth, that third trajectory up, come out of the adversity thinking and feeling very differently about themselves and thinking and feeling very differently about the world. Basically, you come out as a better and stronger person. There's been 2.5 decades of research on this notion of adversarial growth. And here's what we've learned. We've learned that people who grow through adversity, people who experience adversarial growth, come out of that hardship realizing that they were stronger than they thought they were. They come out of that hardship having a better understanding of their own emotions. They have a different perspective on the world, on life, on themselves. They have a stronger commitment to their relationships, wanting to put relationships first and having compassion for other people. This knowledge that you're stronger than you thought you were, this better understanding of your own emotions, this different perspective of the world, not stressing about the small things anymore, looking at the world from a much bigger perspective, this capacity to want to prioritize your relationships, all of these things lead to different goals and interests in your life. And this is one of the key outcomes that psychology researchers like myself have shown through adversarial growth, that you set new goals for yourself. And finally, and I think most importantly, one of the key outcomes of adversarial growth is your knowledge that you can lift a heavy load, that the next time adversity or stress strikes, you know you will be able to cope with it. Now, these are all outcomes that any of us would want, especially given we know that everyone faces adversity. None of us are immune from life's distress. So the question is, what percentage of people are likely to grow through adversity? And the good news is that recent research has shown us that approximately 50% of people who go through life's extreme distress end up on that third trajectory. They end up not only bouncing back, but bouncing forward. The statistic that I'm showing you here is from a very large meta-analysis that was done from more than 8,000 people over 18 countries from studies that were completed from 2005 onwards. So very, very rigorous, large-scale data showing us that, in fact, 50% of people who go through adversity grow. And I don't know about you, that gives me a great sense of hope for the next time life throws me a curveball. The question then is, what can I do to get myself into that 50%? Or what can I do to increase my likelihood that when I go through an adversity, I won't just bounce back, I won't go down, I'll actually grow forward, I'll go up. And here's the thing, my own research in psychology has shown us that there are 6 key strategies that we can do that increase our chance of adversarial growth. The first is to know and play to your strengths. The second is to learn the strategies that help you to manage your emotions, to understand frustration, stress, guilt, anger, but also to amplify joy and curiosity and love and compassion. The third set of strategies revolves around mindfulness, having the capacity to pay focused attention and being aware of what's happening inside ourselves and awareness around others. The fourth pathway is relationships, learning those skills that help you to form those strong and supportive relationships. Fifth is coping, the ability to navigate pressure and demands in a successful way. And then finally, the final pathway, the sixth pathway, is to do with our habits and our goals. If you take each of these 6 pathways, strengths, emotional management, attention and awareness, relationships, coping, and habits and goals, you end up with the acronym of SEARCH. And SEARCH is the evidence-based framework that I use for all of my research, looking at how can we build up our well-being and how do we increase our chances of growing through adversity. SEARCH is the underpinning framework of my Visible Wellbeing School program that's used with schools all across the globe. I also have free SEARCH resources for parents and for students who are listening. If you're a Visible Wellbeing School, there's lots of activities that you can do in there around developing your strategies across each of those 6 key pathways. The aim of Visible Wellbeing is to help you build up a toolkit of each of those strategies so that the next time life does throw you a curveball, you have a much greater chance of growing through that adversity. And hey, when life is going well, you can make the most and amplify the good times. Thanks so much for listening, everyone. I hope you found this video helpful, especially just the idea that you can grow through adversity and you have a great chance to do that. All the best now.